tutorial starts with a song, but it's only a few seconds long.
Computer animation. Computer animation. Computer animation.
Let's get started with animation.
Hello friends, we talk about camera animation today. I prepared a scene which you can easily prepare yourself, and I'll give you a link in the description to tutorials I made about character animations and how to plant FBX files into pre-rigged characters. They're all within Maya. You don't have to leave Maya for this. And it's more or less a random scenery which I picked. It's a man stepping downstairs and a woman walking across. So they look for maybe a second as if they would meet and say hello to each other, but they don't. They just cross their paths. And this doesn't mean anything, but in this tutorial we'll explore several camera animations without camera cuts actually. You just move or stabilize a camera somewhere, and this is very simple to do. You don't need special camera whatevers. You just move the camera and set keyframes. Actually, we set 2 keyframes per animation, and just check out how this works. Because sometimes even in a real life movie, the director might ask you, how can we achieve a certain look so it looks a little bit like the two would interact, or from the beginning that they would never interact. And the camera motion interprets the scene very dramatically. And once you have such a setup, you can try out so many camera animations. It's endless possibilities really. And at the end I show you just a little hint about depth of field, which plays a role here as well. Well, enjoy this video.
This is the scene we'll be working on. We have this lady here. She comes from here, Windows, General Editors, and the content browser. And she's not here, but you find her in the animation section under rigs. These rigs are provided by the render people, and I picked 2 of them. So that's the first step. So I had that character with a skeleton inside as a starting point, and the same with this character here. And then I used the rococo motion capture library to give them a motion. He has a step down, walking downstairs motion, and she just walks across here. So where is the rococo? Well, you go to Windows and Animation Editors, and down here you find the motion library, and that leads you to rococo. You also find FBX motion capture data in the content browser, but this is much richer here. As you can see, you need to log in, and when you go to price, you see lots of them are free of cost, and the most costly ones I think are $5, something like that. It's really worthwhile trying it out, and it's deeply integrated into Maya, so once you have it activated as a plugin, it just works fine. So this is the workflow. Since he walks down the stairs, I needed to create the stairs, and they're just simple polygon cubes actually, which I scaled a little bit up and down. So this is how they walk. He stops earlier than she does. She walks a few steps more, but it's not really much of a difference. And as I said, they kind of look as if they would meet here, but she just walks across. Now let's talk about the cameras. First of all, I'm in the perspective window, and from here I can click on view and create a camera from that view. This new camera is called perspective 1, and we're got rid of the perspective camera. It's not getting rid, we always like to go back to the perspective camera. And this one is exactly the same position, but it's called perspective 1. And I just want to show you how to deal with a simple camera, and then we explore other cameras which I already tried out. You go to the very beginning here, and by the way, when you start the animation at frame 0, let me type in 0 here. You find both characters in a T stance. I don't know where she is, but that's the T stance. He just, oh, they're together. Now they're together at the very starting position. And one frame later, the motion capture data start working. So this is just a 1 frame difference. That's why I usually in character animation I type in 1 here, so the animation doesn't start with that T stance. Okay, we're in perspective number 1, and for example, if we want to see him walk down and you would just ignore her and just make her visible at the very end, that would be an idea for a live video. We could just focus on him, and we're at the very beginning of the animation. And what I want to show you now too is quite important: view and camera settings, and we want to see the resolution gate. The resolution gate is it makes the frame, the viewport, a little bit smaller, but you see exactly the dimensions of what you entered in the render settings, which are here. So 16:9, etc. Now we're quite set, and we're at the very beginning, and now we need the outliner. I click here to see the outliner, and this is our perspective camera. Don't get irritated by all these cameras, we'll inspect them later. These are the stairs here. An area light is at the top. It's just a single light here, and once you render it, you see like a cold office environment. The perspective camera is here, and we need to select it in order to keyframe it. So let's start right here and set a keyframe. So this is my first keyframe at the very beginning of the animation. Now he steps down, and how about this shot at frame 112? This is just one example of how the camera can move. Now you can go to, with these icons here, you can move from one keyframe to another, and you can with the right mouse button delete this keyframe. So it's gone now. You still have the first one, and you can just change the whole setting by, well, for example, setting the keyframe here. And you see it's automatically set in my case because I ticked this icon on. It's auto keyframe. So I'm in the perspective 1, and Maya knows when I change the time now and change parameters in the timeline, then I want to set another keyframe or another set of keyframes here. Now I want to show you something different. I call this the he cam, and if I want to see it here in the viewport, I just middle mouse drag it into this view. Why don't I see him? Because we're at the end of the animation, 167. So let's go to the beginning. So it's similar to the one we had. By the way, the hands are a bit funky, and I don't know why that is. It's probably the transfer from the original rig to the motion capture data, which just don't deal properly with the hands. I didn't want to mess around with the hands anyway, so let him step down. So this is quite a drastic camera move. Again, 2 keyframes. One is at 1 and one is right here at around 156, I think. And I start from a low angle, and I watch him walk down, and this is the interesting part here, and I was not sure if I actually wanted this, but this makes her appearance very dramatic. So she enters the scene here, and already here the decision is made that she will ignore him, and maybe he will ignore her too. So with this dramatic shot, we can, over the shoulder, almost over the shoulder shot, we can get another interesting view of the scene. I call the second one the both cam, because both are in the scene and both are sort of important. So let's check this out. He walks down the stair, totally different perspective. And you obviously see that they don't want to meet. I think at frame 50, which is 2 seconds, you know that something is going deeply wrong between them if you expect them to meet. The next camera is the she cam. So it keeps an eye on her. And then it opens, and you see that there's too much rotation in the camera move. It makes you a little bit dizzy. Right here. And I don't know if we want that. That's the she cam number 2 now. Again, we start with her from the right angle. So she walks, and he appears with his odd hands and just walks past her. Here we have a top cam. If we want a drone shot, which is, I think, not really interesting here. So from the very beginning here, you see that they don't have a character because you don't see them. They're just like little ants, which you see from the top. So that's a top cam. Here's the bottom cam. I lowered the camera very to the ground, probably, to see not her face and not his face, but only the feet. And again, 2 keyframes only. Of course, you have the luxury to set as many keyframes as you like, and I did a few tutorials about camera animation with keyframes and with curves, so feel free to check them out. This is the bottom view here. This is a typical office shot, I would say, like a B-roll between 2 important dialogues, for example. You have just office people doing their whatever's, walking to the coffee machine or whatever. The portraits cam is doing a closer look of the characters. So the camera follows her more or less, and then he walks past her. I like this shot. And this is the portrait cam number 2. So we see him in view at the very beginning. And by the way, we don't see the stairs here, but still we know that he's walking downstairs. And this is something which tricks us often as animators. We put so much effort into building an environment, and then we barely see anything of it. So I built the stairs, and in this shot I would need the stairs really. And here we have the both depth of field camera. When you do camera animation, of course, the real life camera has a certain depth of field. And in many cases, it provides a premium look to have the characters appear in focus and the other characters in the background out of focus. This is a very, very nice feature of a real lens. And of course, in 3D animation, you have sharpness all over the place, so you need to simulate the depth of field, and you can actually use it, making the scene more or less dramatic. For example, now he's in focus and she isn't. And just a brief look at how I did this. I need the attribute editor for this. I'm in that camera number, both DOF camera 1, that's how I called it. So press Ctrl A to see the attribute editor, and down here all the way, it's not depth of field here, this is the Maya depth of field. We need the Arnold depth of field, and in the Arnold depth of field you have enable a depth of field, and the focus distance is 188, 1 meter and 88 centimeters, and the aperture size is 1.2, which is quite drastic. And you can of course, change this with the control key and the middle mouse button here. You can change the sharpness of, basically the focal distance of our camera. Now she gets a little bit more into focus when we reduce the distance, and he's getting out of focus now. And now when I change the aperture size from 1.2 to 2, which is a massive amount, you get him in quite a bit out of focus. So this depends on, so it's a simulation of the real lens. And of course it gives us a nice clue about what's happening here. If she is in focus and he isn't, the story is about her. And in the next scene we probably hear her talk to somebody. Well, try it out. Build a scene. It's fun to build scenes with motion capture data, and the scene doesn't have to be long, and you can try out camera animations with just 2 keyframes. And bye-bye.